How does it switch to me when I wait a minute?
Welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Schupak in Valley Cottage, New York, and I'm joined by my great co-hosts, Ray Clifford and Ralph Schrager.
Oh,
And
I thought you got some new co-hosts for a
no,
second.
Whoa.
Ralph's in Massachusetts. Ray is in Ohio. A couple of things we never picked last week. Gave out the David Clowney Award. So we have to do that. We have to also introduce the Trumaine Johnson Award. We'll get into that. A couple of announcements before we get right into it. We don't have a real agenda. Aaron Rodgers was, they actually did surgery on his torn Achilles. Apparently it went well. So all you Aaron Rodgers fans, I think he's going to come back at 100%. That's great news. And some other news that Ray's going to really love. Ralph, you're going to see him shaking his head. Came across 1120 from Rich Cimini.
Brady's not signing with the
No,
Jets.
no. Rich Cimini reported about a little more than an hour ago. Greg Zuerlein injured his groin yesterday, Ray. So he's not practicing today. There goes the head. So
Perfect.
yeah, so
This
Ralph even
season's going right according to script.
Ralph said with Zach, it's going to be a season of field goals. Now that's in jeopardy. Now as we
Oh yeah, and I was just thinking of predicting a score for the game. Now it's like I have to change to.
we do.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to mostly, I guess, it'll be 90% talking about Zach. You're going to hear me.
I don't want to talk about it for 90%. I'm so tired of listening.
Nancy, you're going to hear about me. But you're gonna think like he's like a elementary school player, but I'm also going to come up with a formula to win this game, and I think I do have the right formula. But I was thinking of Zack Wilson, and I've gotten a number of emails and texts from people and saying, how come you can't stand the guy and you just don't like him? And I was thinking that, and it's probably unfair, but the one thing that I really got turned off, I remember last year when he tried to make that run and he got hurt. And he was out for what, 2 to 4 games? Or was it 2 games, Ralph, or 3?
Four games. He was
4 games, and then this
three.
Year,
wait a minute, three. Yeah,
whatever it is. And this year he made a beautiful 36-yard run, but again, he never should have made that run, and he seems to not learn from his mistakes. So that's
he should have made the run. He should have gone out of bounds. You mean?
Should have gone out of bounds, and he has a tendency of going head first too on a lot of these runs because of his competitiveness. But also, I always said like he's has tremendous ability, but it's beyond that. It's like his football IQ is like nowhere to be found. And I just have so little confidence. And right now, as we're sitting, just so we don't really bet, but the spread is now at 9-point. The Jets are 9-point favorites, and I'll just ask Ralph.
They're underdogs, and
not underdogs. 9-point underdogs.
And I saw 9.5 actually.
All right. Well, here's a question for you, Ralph. If I gave you the number of 10.5 by kickoff time, would you take the over or under?
If Greg Zuerlein is healthy, I would take 9.5. Yeah, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because Dallas's offense was not that good against the Giants. Frankly, they got pick six and a block punt. I think. Actually, Dak Prescott's numbers were very Zack Wilson, like 140 yards. I think 54% completion. I'm not saying he's Zack Wilson, but I don't consider him an elite quarterback. I consider him a second-tier quarterback, and I think their defense can keep them under control, keep the game close. So yeah, I'd like the number actually.
How about you, Ray? 9.5. Would you take the over or under, like for game time? Do you think it's going to go up or down? I'm just curious what you feel.
I don't think it's going to go up necessarily, but I do think I think we're going to have trouble keeping them under that 9.5. Although I think it would be late in the game, and unless Zach can keep some drives going, I think they'll wear our defense out, and at some point they're going to get some points. So I think they'll go over. The Dallas will cover the spread, just because I got to see that we can do more than 3 and out a bunch of times before I believe we can keep this game close. I think we can for a while, but I think at some point the defense is just going to wear out.
Right. Ralph, I noticed Stephen Gilmore is one of the defensive backs.
Stephen Gilmore's got the same birthday as me. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephen Gilmore. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are the same age. And that was my question.
No, actually, he's a year older.
Does he have anything left? I mean,
yeah, he's 32. I don't know. It'll be interested to see. 32-year-old cornerback's pretty old for a cornerback, but we'll see. He was a heck of a player for a while. I remember when the Patriots signed him, I figured, yeah, they can get a couple of years out of him. That was a few years ago. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. We'll see too. And Ray, your thoughts on, I don't know how well you know the Cowboys, about how to attack this team right now. What would you do?
Well, I think the hard part on the Cowboys is they have a really good defensive line. And, our hope is to be able to run the ball. And so that's going to be the biggest challenge, because between and I cannot for the life of me think of the edge rusher who's been so good out of Penn State, but
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons.
Yeah, Micah Parsons. He's just licking his chops to get at this Jets offensive line. And if we can somehow control them from killing Zach or anybody else who's in there and run the ball a little, that's the thing. You got to be able to move the ball, and they are a tough team to run on. Their defensive line is every bit as good as our defensive line. I don't know if it's as deep, but the guys they have in there are definitely some of the best. And so if we can't move the ball on the ground, it's going to be a lot of short passing, because Zach's not going to have a ton of time back there to try and go deep. So it's going to have to be a short passing attack or run the ball to move it and keep the chains moving.
Ralph, you said something in the last show and I'm going to make a statement. I want your reaction. You said the offensive line will get better. And I thought about that, Ralph and Ray, and I came up with the assumption that right now, the way it is in the NFL, I really believe the way they don't play the veterans, the starters during preseason, the first two games of the regular season are like preseason games to me. And I think the real season, as far as the ability, really starts with the third game. Ralph, your reaction?
I mean, there's something to that. I would say week one, no matter what year you're talking about, is always kind of weird because, teams throw stuff out that you haven't seen before. So there are some weird results. I mean, I can go back years and think of like the year the Patriots opened up with a 31-0 loss to Buffalo, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl, But 2 or 3 games, maybe. As far as how the Jets should deal with Buffalo, I think what they should do is with Dallas is opposite. Run on passing downs, pass on running downs. Not all the time, but a lot. First downs, play action, rollouts to the right for Zach where he's strongest. Third and shorts, I would pass. Third and mediums and longs, I would try a lot of draws and stuff rather than give Dallas a chance to really, really come after him. I think that's, you got to keep them off balance. And I hope Hackett does something like that.
Yeah. And you have more confidence being 9.5-point underdogs with Hackett than you did with LaFleur from last year. Would you say that?
I don't know yet. I have to see more of Hackett. I mean, I like his personality, but as far as him as an OC, I'm not ready to make an assessment on him yet.
All right, let me give you my formula, and I'd like Ray's reaction first. Formula, as much as I don't like Zack Wilson, I came up with a little bit. I guess I have 8 things, a formula for winning this game.
Wow.
Here we go. I want Jeremy Ruckert more involved in the passing game. He did a fine job blocking, but I want him more involved in the passing game. I want Joe Tittman or Wes Schweitzer in for Laken Tomlinson at guard. Again, he's just not that good. I don't know what happened since he was with the 49ers, but he started out, I mean, he wasn't awful, but he just was pretty below average. I would get number 3, get Xavier Gibson involved more in the offense, even if it means Nicole Hardman has to sit in the bench. Again, I just think this guy, we might have something with this guy. I would try him maybe on some jet sweeps and things like that. I would also have Zach go deep, but I would have him go deep with 12-man personnel, 2 tight ends, and keep one into block, slide one out, and keep a running back in there. So you only have really 3 guys going out in the route plus 1 tight end.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight ends.
Right, but I would do that especially early. Alan Lazard, who I'm not crazy about because I don't think he's got very good hands, but he is an excellent blocker.
Good jumper too.
I'm sorry?
He's a good jumper too.
Yeah. I would
Leaping Lazard.
I would have him try to chip Micah Parsons almost on every pass play. It's going to slow up his routes, but you got to slow up Micah Parsons. On defense, I was so impressed with Quentin Jefferson. He only played 34 snaps. I would want him out a little bit longer. Again, I don't know if it's the fact that Quentin Williams is the other tackle, and that's making him shine, but I don't care. I mean, he had 5.5 sacks last year, and last week he had 2 sacks in the game. I want him on the field more. And I would also activate Zaire Barnes. I love this guy's speed. He's got great closing speed. And the last but not least, number 8, which is a little related, I like him, but I would keep Mosley off the field on 3rd and long. I just don't like the way he covers passes and he gets faked out. So that's some of the things that I would do as a formula for winning. Ray, I'd like your reaction to some of those.
Well,
read them all back by memory, Ray.
First and foremost,
wait, Jeremy Ruckett, Joe Tippmann, Xavier Kipp.
I heard you, Marty. I don't need a replay. I already know what. Gee. First of all, I think this is, and Marty, you're having known you now that others haven't talked to you during games as much as I have. This is a typical Marty, a bit of an overreaction thing. After one game, I'm not ready to start playing musical chairs with our offensive line to see if one guy can, change everything, especially because one guy's a rookie and the other guy's not been an all-pro or anything either. So I'd like to stick with our offensive line a little bit and see if they can, kind of gel a little. That was, I think, the problem in the preseason, that we kept moving guys back and forth. Ruckert, yeah, I'd be okay with him getting more, but I don't think he's a big difference maker as far as offensively yet. I think he could be down the line. I'd be fine if they gave him more and let him, make some plays. As far as the deep pass, I agree. That he's got to air it out at least a little bit, but it's going to kind of be obvious to Dallas if you're bringing guys into max protect, then they're only going to have to cover 2, maybe 3 guys down there. So they're going to be able to double guys and everything. Now, you might catch them off guard doing that once in a while, and I would like to see Zach do something to air it out and loosen up the D somehow. I'm not big on making Zaire Barnes a big part of the defense yet. I'm not saying he didn't impress, but I don't know that we're ready to make that move either. I mean, getting a lot of young guys in there before if they aren't showing in practice, I don't see the coaches letting them do as much in games. I would like to see him activated. I'd like to see him get on the field a little bit, but I'm not going to replace Mosley, who is not just the guy got to cover, but he's also the guy kind of calling the defensive plays. I don't think taking him off the field is necessarily the best option either.
I just said on 3rd and long passing plays. If it's 2nd and long, I keep him on. I'd like him 3rd and long. I'm going to add one more thing, Ray, which I missed. How about putting in 1 or 2 like quarterback bootlegs, just running plays like the Giants do with Daniel Jones. I mean,
I
just
think
go ahead.
I think that would be a fine thing. I think now though they're a little I think they're a little gun shy at having Zach running around out there, and then all of a sudden he's out of the game, and now you're down to Boyle,
You
and
can't
then
play
who? We
scared.
haven't even signed him.
You got to be
That's not
aggressive
playing
and
scared.
smart.
That's you
You
got
got
to
to
play
play smart.
scared and smart are two different things. Scared is saying, you know, we haven't, we haven't, we aren't trying to run up the middle because their defensive line's so good. That's playing scared. You still got to run your offense. But playing smart means don't put Zach out there to take hits when you don't have you don't have a lot of options after if he goes down.
Right.
So and Boyle's not a real mobile guy. So if he ends up in the game, who's our third string right now?
It's Cobb.
Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I don't want to be running the option.
That could be fun.
Yeah.
It could be.
Okay, Ralph, your reaction, and I don't know if Ray had any thoughts about Quentin Jefferson getting more snaps.
Well, Quentin Jefferson, he and Al Woods were excited to come to the Jets because in Seattle it was sort of a read and react. They were in a 3-4, and they were really like run stuffers. The guy still got 5.5 sacks in that kind of defense. So I think we got a guy, and in preseason, he was all over the quarterback too. I didn't even know who it was at first because he changed his number from preseason. But I think we got a guy here who gets 6 to 8 sacks this year, and that's really good as a backup to Quinton Williams. I'm excited about both those guys. I really liked both those signings, and they're already showing me that they're better than Nathan Shepard and Rankins as a trade-off. I felt that way, and I'm sure of it.
Okay. Any other reaction? Any of the things?
Yeah,
I like my Joe Tittman sub this.
Well, I like Joe Tittman, and I have no problem with him playing, but I don't think they're giving up on Lake and Tomlinson yet. It's too soon for them to do that. I wish, I think the scenario for Tittman is if Dwayne Brown just cannot play, and they got to put AVT on the outside and then put Tittman in at guard. I still think they'll keep McGovern at center, but I hope Tittman is playing regularly by the second half of the year because I think he's really good. What was some of the other things? Is Zaire Barnes? I don't really think that's a big deal.
How about Xavier Gibson? A little more.
Yes, I'd like to see him get touches, but they're going to use McCole Hardman though. They didn't just pay him $5 or $6 million to sit on the bench and not play snaps. So I think they're going to give him a shot first. And I don't mind him on the jet sweep because his pure speed is as good as anyone's on the team. What else you got there, Martin?
About Mosley, keeping him off the field.
Yeah, if you're going to keep him off the field, you're going to put another defensive back in, I assume, not another linebacker.
Could be a safety.
Yeah, right. I have no problem with loading up on defensive backs.
Okay. What about the technique of Lazard chipping Micah Parsons?
Well, I think they're probably going to have a tight end do that, I would assume.
Right.
But I think they got to do that. I remember the first time I ever saw that was when the Packers played the Rams and Deacon Jones was the best player in the league, and they just took him out of the game by putting a tight end doubling him.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that would be a great move.
Okay. The other thing we went over, and when we get on players that play bad and we don't like, we really get on them. And last year or the last 2 years, I know Ray and I have been getting on Connor McGovern. I just want to give him kudos because he ended up as a free agent, not signing with another team. Apparently there wasn't a market out there. And I had predicted that he was going to have a really good year. Coming in, really wanted to get that last contract. He played a pretty good game. And Ray, if you look close on that quarterback sneak.
Yeah, he made a nice block.
He made a nice block, and he ended up moving the pile.
About time they got a third and short. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
First time in 2 years, I think.
I had to rub my eyes when that happened.
Right. Yeah. Ray, I had predicted that they would have had another quarterback on Thursday. Today's Friday. We're recording this at 12:30 in the afternoon. Are you surprised that they haven't signed another quarterback yet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they're still working on it, but I'm a little surprised we're still uh, going with just these two guys. I want somebody, even if they aren't ready to suit up, I just want somebody in the room. I mean, I'm assuming Rogers is nowhere near the facility yet,
Well, no, he
and
just
they
got
need, I think,
surgery this morning. He's out
right.
wherever he is. I
So
don't know.
he's well. I mean, I'm saying can't be. He could be in the room with them with watching film. He's all he's doing is keeping that leg
Right.
elevated or whatever they have him doing. But I'm not expecting that yet. That's what I'm saying. But I want somebody in the room that with some veteran experience to at least talk to the guys, even if he's not ready to play. So yeah, I'm a little surprised they haven't brought someone in. I assume they will by next week.
I hope so. Ralph, how about you? Are you surprised?
I'm not surprised because this has been their MO ever since they got Zack Wilson. I mean, they started out with a very inexperienced quarterback room. They finally got Flacco, but they've been pretty lax about that. And I'm not surprised. That's the bottom line.
Ralph,
Well,
go
I'm
ahead, Ray.
not surprised in that sense, but I'm not surprised in that sense, but I thought they would have learned from that mistake. That's why I thought they'd have done
Well,
something a little
yeah, I know,
different.
but I guess
Apparently not.
they haven't even brought anybody. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's nobody that really excites them that much at this point. They're going to have to convince themselves of someone. The newest rumor is Kirk Cousins, which is ridiculous as far as I can see.
Oh God.
That'd be
Ralph,
pretty funny though.
yeah, Ralph,
Get him and Anthony Barr in a package deal.
your friend Marty, as negative as I could be, I'm going to put you on the spot. Let's see how your memory is.
Whoa.
I'm so negative on Zack Wilson, but
This is
Oh,
there was a who was the quarterback that took over for Montana?
Young.
Hall of Fame.
Steve Young. Steve Young. Yeah.
Ralph, I want you to give the fans like a 2-minute review on the journey of Steve Young, if you do remember it, and how Bill Walsh saw something in him, and when he went back to Tampa Bay. Do you remember the?
Well, Tampa Bay in the mid '80s, they had 2 first-round picks, like 2 years apart. First, they took Steve Young, and he was terrible because Tampa Bay had a terrible team. And then 2 years later, they took Testaverde, and he was terrible.
Could I just interrupt? But before he even went there, he went to I guess it was
the other league.
Express.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, go ahead, Ralph.
Oh, he was considered a really good prospect.
Right.
But, a bad organization can ruin any quarterback. And a good organization can lift a quarterback who's not that good. And the Tampa is a classic example of it. They ruined both those guys temporarily. They both resurrected their careers. Obviously, Young got with a great organization and a great head coach, and he really became a star. It took Testaverde a while, but with his talent, he eventually became a good quarterback too. I don't know if you're trying to apply this to Zack Wilson.
Well, there are similarities in a few areas.
Well, they went to BYU.
BYU, and also sitting behind a Hall of Famer for a few years, which was the plan.
Zack's about a few minutes, unfortunately.
Right, yeah. A few minutes. But again, it's you have to talk people like your friend Marty Schupak off the ledge, because I just don't see this guy ever succeeding. But there was something Bill Walsh noticed in Steve Young, and I'm hoping that Joe Douglas, I think he's a great judge of talent. So if there's any optimism, it's that he notices something and he's convinced Saleh, or Saleh's convinced Joe Douglas, and they're going to go with him. I just hope he's a little better. I've read stuff about the little bit of work that he did, how he improved on a few little things. I'm not quite sure that's true. I know he didn't throw the ball into the ground except for once on purpose. But Ray, what was your overall opinion of Zack Wilson going back last week compared to the last 2 years?
He showed some improvements on things in the pocket. He looked a little more settled than he used to, but it was such a short sample size as far as time for him to learn. It's hard to say he was going to learn too much in a few weeks of preseason and some practices. But I thought he showed some signs on some things, but he still, in my mind, he still stares guys down too much. He doesn't trust his eyes and doesn't he hesitates that split second that gives the defense time to get in there. His throws are still, the Garrett Wilson touchdown is a perfect example of how he just doesn't put the ball where it needs to be when he needs to put it in a small window. And Garrett Wilson bailed him out big time on that one. That easily could have been a pick, but if nothing else, Garrett was probably going to knock it down at least. But still, it was off the mark by about 1.5 feet, 2 feet. And then he'll make some throws that make you go, he's got the ability. It's just, then he throws that pick he just stared the guy down and throws a pick and never sees the linebacker who's right in front of him. So he's made improvements, but he's still got a long way to go to be a guy who could guide this team very far.
Ralph, Ralph, I want your opinion on it, and I have a follow-up question for you, Ralph. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, you can pick different areas where I would say that where he wasn't perfect or anything, but I would say relative to last year, thought a little calmer. He made the easy throws. Yeah, the interception was ugly, but I would say overall, not a bad performance from him. Considering the situation, he got thrown in. They weren't game planning for his strengths, so I'm not upset with it. I don't know that he's going to build on it and get better. I'm still skeptical. I don't despise him like Marty does, but I think if they game plan this week and to his strengths, we got to hope. I mean, the game is still.
Ralph, let me interrupt you. Could you tell us what are Zack Wilson's strengths? Tell me these strengths that I'm not seeing.
Well, I think he has a very quick release and a really strong arm, and he can get the ball down the field in traffic. If he's his accuracy is not dependable, but I think the potential is there. I think you roll him out, he can throw long. He had some long passes last year. He's mobile, but his mobility he uses the wrong way. Unfortunately, when we were kids, Fran Tarkenton was the first scrambler, and the thing that Tarkenton was able to do when he was running around like crazy was he could see down the field and make the defenses pay. Zack can't do that. He can't do that while he's running. He's panicking too much. But he's not doing that quite as much as he did last year. Small steps, Marty.
Okay, Ralph, today is Friday, September 15th. I want to ask you, what are the chances of this scenario happening on Monday, September 25th, 7 a.m, Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson go in unannounced to Joe Douglas's office and they say, listen, I didn't sign up for this. We just lost 2 games in a row. He threw completed 3 passes in 2 games for over 10 yards. You got to do something because I could feel it in the locker room. We feel it. We feel we might have a playoff team, but we just don't think Zack's ready for that. What are the chances of that happening, Ralph?
None.
There you go. Okay, Ray, any chance of that happening?
Well, first of all, I don't that the scenario that you're putting out there is that would have to happen with Zack first, and you're just going off a couple of games against New England last year, and then just assuming that stuff's going to happen. That you're playing fantasy football, and I don't think it'll happen either. And I don't think they would go in there and try and tell the coach they got to make changes. I just don't see. I don't. if Aaron Rodgers did it, that'd be, one thing. They'll listen to him. I don't think they're going to listen to, guys who just want the ball more. Everybody wants Zach to do better, but I don't see these guys walking in.
Anyway, Marty, when you say we didn't sign up for this, they did sign up for it. This is NFL football, man. It can happen at any time, and these guys know it. They've been playing football their whole lives. They're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. If there's a better option, what Brian Cashman always used to say, my job as a GM is to replace every player on the roster with someone better. If Douglas sees someone out there who he thinks is better than him, I think he'll do it. But do we know for sure that Matt Ryan is better than him?
No,
Matt Ryan was not a mobile quarterback when he was young. So you'd be looking at Joe Flacco too.
Right.
Colt McCoy, never liked that guy in college or the pros. I mean, it's really slim pickings out there, and none of these guys know the offense. At least he does. So I think they're going to give him a legit shot. It's a long season, as we found out last year when we were 7-4 and thought we were going to the playoffs and fell apart. So after 11 games, we could, we're still going to have a shot at it. By that time, they're going to know if Zack Wilson can play or not. And probably it won't even take that long. I'd say by the bye week, we're going to know if Zack Wilson is improved enough to give this team a chance to go somewhere.
Okay, and Ray, I want if you want to add to that as we're winding down on Marty Schupak's weekly psychiatric session about Zack Wilson trying to, walk you off the Tappan Zee Bridge. Any reaction with Ralph?
Well, I mean, I think any Jet fan with common sense at all is a little concerned about Zach going forward. I mean, you can't just go, okay, he had a month and a half under Aaron Rodgers, he's going to be like turn around and be super. But you want to see improvement. I will say the one thing when you ask what his strengths are that really disappointed me about Zach so far anyway is that I really thought that one of his strengths was going to be how he created on the move, and he's not. He's like Ralph said. He gets a little too. He gets I don't want to say afraid, but when he starts scrambling, he's just looking for any way out. He's not looking down the field. He's not looking to make a play very often.
In defense of him, he made that one beautiful play his rookie year to Corey Davis. That was very nice.
One out of about how many? 75 so far.
I agree. Yeah,
that's what I mean. He has the ability to do it. We've seen him run around, make plays in college, but the pro's different, and he's not the same on the move that he looked like he would be when we were watching him in college. And that's the thing that disappoints me about him the most is I thought he'd be somebody who would get out of trouble when he might be sacked and make things happen.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. So.
I was thinking because I've been a Jet fan, as Ralph knows, forever. And I like to think that I watch the team because I enjoy it and want to have fun. I can't tell you, though, it's fun now, looking forward to a Jet game. And when I watch it, why is it the last 10 years, Ralph? I'll ask you this. I'm watching a game, and with the quarterback, I'm either waiting for something bad to happen, number one, or if something good happens, like a touchdown, before I go crazy cheering, like when Gibson returned the fumble, first thing I'm doing is my eyes are peeled to the field looking for a yellow flag. That's how I'm conditioned, Ralph. Help me out there.
No, and I was so glad when Joe Buck said when he reversed field, he said there's no flags. It was like he still had 40 yards to go because, yes, and at that point felt safe. Sure. Yeah, exactly. And when we sack the other team on third down, suddenly we see where's the flag? Where's the late hit? It's like, how many times? Sure, yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. All right. Now, are you ready to get to the David Clowney Award before we close this out? Ralph, why don't you, for our new fans, why don't you describe what the David Clowney Award is and who? Some of them don't even know who David Clowney was. So,
I guess his nickname was Mr. August because he had these great August preseason games where he'd catch all these bombs for touchdowns, and then he disappeared in the regular season. So it's kind of like fool's gold. It was tough to find someone this year, but a guy I guess who I thought had a very good preseason and didn't even make the roster was the kid from Florida, the Trey Dean. So that's about the best I could come up with.
Interesting. And now he's on the practice squad.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna say someone who is on the roster, and he had an up and down preseason, and he was inactive last time. I'm saying Jason Brownlee, wide receiver. Ray, do you have any David Clowney candidate?
I do. Yeah, I thought Brownlee too, and I know he had a good first couple games, but as the preseason went along, I thought he was too inconsistent. So I wasn't surprised. I was surprised actually that he made the roster. But so far, unless he turns it around at some point and gets on the field, he's a guy I think
Right.
might be the best
And-
choice.
By the way, who was the quarterback who was throwing all those bombs to David Clowney? Remember?
He ended up in. I was trying to talk about that with Marty.
Yeah, Ray, we were talking about it. We liked him, Ralph.
He ended up
Yeah.
in Cleveland with Van G.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Brett Ratliff.
Brett Ratliff. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
Belichick wanted him too at one time.
Yeah. He had a nice arm, but
Because
as Joe Montana used to say, three-quarters of quarterbacking is from the neck up, which really applies to Zack Wilson, unfortunately, at this point.
Oh, one last thing before we close this out. And but by the way, we'll go back to the David Clowney Award at the end of the year, who the actual winner was out of the nominations. But I don't think the turf. I've been touting that I want facilities, stadiums to have natural grass. And a lot of them have turf, and it came out that the Players Association is asking the owners to put in natural grass, which I don't see how it could happen in like MetLife Stadium. They have all these, Bruce Springsteen concerts and everything else. But then I was thinking, I think it might happen, and I'll tell you why. Usually with the collective bargaining, there's always trade-offs. So, Ray, my feeling and my reaction is that they'll eventually have all grass, but the trade-off, and I think for us, at least for me and Ralph, the downside is you're going to see what the owners have been asking for years. They're going to want 18 games, and I think it's going to happen. I think that's going to be the trade-off.
It's all safety, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Ray, your
All
reaction?
about safety. I would love turf too, but I want to also say that I don't
Turf or
believe
grass? No,
that.
you mean grass.
Well, yeah, natural turf.
Natural grass.
Real
Go ahead.
turf, not, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But yes, I would love to see them go to it. But they've tried it before with that one tray system or whatever they had, and that was a disaster. And so then they finally went to different
you
versions.
remember
of
in
what
the
they
old
got
days,
now.
they used to play on baseball infields. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
everybody was muddy and
yeah, and then you get these games in December, and they get their helmets hitting on that rock hard sand. I remember Oakland Raiders would be nailing Lynn Swann. There was nobody cared about anything. Of course,
Ralph, I remember Ralph Baker coming up with like a mud pie. I was at the game. Yeah,
I know. But of course, clotheslines were legal in those days, and Ben Davidson breaking Namath's jaw, that was legal in those days. I mean, the players weren't as big and fast, but the game was much, much dirtier in those days. But I just one thing I want to say, Marty, about the grass. And, I would normally say, no, it's not going to happen because the NFL owners are always thinking money, money, money. But the outrage is that in 2026, the World Cup is going to be in the United States, and they're going to put grass in a lot of these stadiums for the soccer teams, which is absolutely a disgrace that they would do that for them and not for football.
It's a temporary thing, so to speak. I heard someone explain it, but if you guys remember the old Jet, and this, I'm not a doctor or an expert, but I don't think that the Rodgers injury had anything to do with the turf. But do you remember we had the linebacker Marvin Jones?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do Do you remember he was in the
Shade.
game? All of a sudden he's playing. All of a sudden he's limping off. He had like a non-contact injury because I guess his cleat stuck into the artificial turf, and like he was done for the year. I think he had his hip. So
well, I mean, the Rodgers thing, they claim that had it been grass, his leg would have ripped out his cleat would have ripped out the grass, and instead of having just his leg torqued. But I don't know if that's true in this case.
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched that replay numbers because I've had some conversations with guys, and I don't believe the turf would have made any because if you really watch it, he's bearing all the weight of that guy on his back.
Yeah.
And he's bending forward, and eventually he just bent too far forward. If you really watch it, you can actually see, right about the time it happened, it just, he never could have moved his foot to avoid it, and I don't think being on turf made it stick. I think 250 pounds or whatever it was on his back made the difference. But, I'll never think
what you
turf
said
can make a difference.
Yeah. They came out after you brought it up about which leg is it, and it was the better leg.
It's the left leg, which is a small compensation.
And there's no doubt that guys' feet did always catch in the turf. So it's not that the turf argument for injuries isn't valid, but in this case, I don't think he could have done anything to avoid what happened.
Yeah. But I think the NFL Players Association, because this was such a ridiculously high profile, this is like a world event, so they're going to use this.
It gives them ammunition, but Ralph, again, I'm going to tell you, they're going to say we can't, and then finally say, okay, we'll do it, but you got to give us the 18th game.
Well, they're going to give it a second bye week,
Well, I think they'll have to give something. They're going to have to they got to open it up for like at least 2 more spots on the roster.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that March Super Bowl in 2028.
Well, I think they can start a week earlier, first of all.
I always heard that the game plan really was to do it like on President's Weekend. And
exactly. So the day off. Yeah. I thought that was a done deal, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah.
Well, this is going to happen.
I think they didn't want to, it was always the week before the season opener was college's season opener. So I think they're trying to work.
Yeah. Well, they'll have to work around it. But another thing is, I hate the week off between the championships and the Super Bowl. There have been years when they didn't have it, and it was much better. You got right into it. The teams were really sharp, and everyone was totally focused. And I'd be happy to get rid of that.
If it was up to me, I'd go back to 4 preseason games and a 14-game season. That would be perfect for me. That's all I
4 preseason games? Forget that.
Yeah. All right. Look, we're going to close this out. The Zack Wilson Hour, Jets Rewind. And we're heard on all podcast stations, podcasts, Spotify, everything, 24 hours a day, all over the world. And please give us a 5-star review for Ray Clifford. And Ray, which cat is that?
I think we're on in Times Square. Don't they have our podcast on in Times Square?
Oh, yeah. And Ray is holding one cat.
We're on the big board and right in the
right. And one cat
is the girl who had her seizures.
Right.
That's the boy.
Right. And for all my Jewish listeners, we want to wish you a happy new year. So let's go Jets. And until next time.